first green revolution has done to those areas where it was operative, you will understand what the kind of damage that has been done to Indian agriculture. If there are farmers committing suicide in India, and now the latest estimate is 2,90,470 farmers, according to Minister of Agriculture statement in Parliament, have committed suicide since 1995 and 2011. It really tells us that these farmers, we believe, have died because of the credit burden. But why that credit was because the natural resource base has been destroyed. Once you destroy the natural resource base, which is soil, water, and the environment, obviously your cost of production goes up phenomenally. Now, what has happened in the last several years in India is that the cost of production of agriculture, especially in the depleted lands, if you go to Punjab, for instance, the cost of production has zoomed, at a phenomenal level in Punjab. But strangely, what we don't realize is that the output price of agriculture, whether in India or whether globally, it has remained static for last 20 years. 20 years, UNTAD tells us that the output price of a farming commodity everywhere in the world, if you adjust for inflation, is same that you were getting 20 years back. So imagine if you and me, our salaries were to remain frozen for 20 years, I'm sure half of us would have been dead by now. Now imagine the farmer surviving despite the input cost going up, his output cost has remained static for last 20 years. In fact, I have a document of FAO I can share with you. It tells us in 2001 to 2011, the output prices of agriculture commodities along in the international market. I give you just one example. Milk. Milk, the output price in 2001 was $95 per ton. In 2011, it is also $95 per ton. Rice, it is 2010 something, it is 2012 now. So like that, it is, if you see the figure, you see the graph, all over the world, the food prices has remained static. Now, what do you expect the farmer to do in a situation when the food prices remain static, his output price remains static? He eventually will commit a suicide because the cost of production has gone up to such a level. The input prices have not remained static in the last 20 years. Now, what we need to do, therefore, is to not go bring in the second green revolution model in India or the green revolution model to Northeast. What we need to do is to learn from the Andhra Pradesh model of agriculture. Why I call it the Andhra Pradesh model of agriculture? Because Andhra Pradesh also was a hotspot for farmer suicide several years back. But Andhra Pradesh, 6 or 7 years back, did an experiment. Some farmers actually did it. The government has not adopted a program. There is in Andhra Pradesh now, in all the districts of Andhra Pradesh, out of that, 35 lakh acres is under no pesticide management. They don't use pesticides at all in 35 lakh acres. Over the years, farmers have also stopped using chemical fertilizers in 20 lakh acres in Andhra Pradesh. So 35 lakh acres, no pesticides, 20 lakh acres, no fertilizer. And everyone will say the production should be going down, there should be a crisis in agriculture, the farmer should be dying. In fact, it has happened the other way around. The production is going up steadily. The insect attack has come down drastically. The farmers there, because the soil has improved, because soil fertility was almost zero otherwise, that has improved a lot. The environmental cost has come down, it is now much safer. And in fact, the health expenses of farmers, because most of the times farmer is spending much expenses on health costs because of pesticides that is inhaling or spraying and the cancer or the other diseases that we see in agriculture sector. And that has come down 40%, as a result of which the entire economic viability of that region has not changed. Now that's the model. If it can happen in 35 lakh acres, it's a government of Andhra Pradesh program. If it can happen in 35 lakh acres, I am sure you will agree it can also happen in 35 million acres, and it can happen in 350 million acres if there is a push. If there is a push for bringing in second green revolution, it will do exactly what is happening to Punjab farmers. In Punjab today, if you look at the water level, you will be shocked. In Punjab, I don't know about Kerala, what is the water table, groundwater table situation here. Although I know there's a water crisis in Kerala. But if you look at Punjab, in my own village, I have to go at least 800 feet is my the depth of the village well. And I know in my own village, the women take out water from the well. They have to, 20 of them will take out the walk around and then pull out the water. Now that's the kind of situation in my village. And this is across Punjab. Punjab has 138 development blocks. Out of these 138 development blocks, 108 blocks have already become dark zones, which means 98% water has been consumed. The studies by NASA 2020 study and study by the Punjab Agriculture University, they are all indicating that by the year 2020, which is not far away now, they are saying that there will be negative draw from the groundwater, which means you will have nothing to draw from the groundwater for agriculture in or for the irrigation by the year 2020. Why do you want to create or shift that or carry that crisis to the northeast? What we need in northeast is not the Punjab model. What you need in northeast is the model of Andhra Pradesh. That's the model of agriculture which I think should be followed all across the country, so that we can have sustainable agriculture, not sustainable agriculture intensification, but sustainable agriculture the way it should be, which helps farmers, which helps consumers. Eventually, it also helps the consumers. And unless consumers start demanding it, I don't think we can shift to that model of agriculture. The final thing that I would like to say is we must shift to ensure that we do not integrate our agriculture globally. Now, that does not mean I'm against trade internationally. But the way the trade has been designed, the international trade has been designed, whether we like it or not, if we accept the Doha Development Round, as I said earlier, we are going to be a food importing country in the days to come. And the entire effort of Government of India through the Planning Commission is to turn India into a food importing country, because we believe there's no need to pump in money into this sector. We can buy food off the shelf. Now, once that happens, the horrendous crisis is before you. But more importantly is that will, in my understanding, would also trigger off or will also build up the Maoism that we are confronting today with. When Prime Minister Manmohan Singh took over in 2004, one of his statements said that in India, 161 districts are affected by Naxalism. That was in 2004. Today, more than 230 districts are affected by Naxalism in India. And agriculture is the first line of defense against Naxalism. Once you destroy agriculture, destroy the natural resources, take over the natural resources, Naxalism is definitely going to come up sooner than later. We are not promoting Naxalism, but we are saying your own economic policies are pushing in the kind of Naxalism that the country is witnessing. In the days to come, the more we destroy agriculture, the more we take away the natural resources, we will have more of Naxalism growing in this country. I have no doubts that it's going to grow in India, it's not going to come down, despite all the kinds of military the way to address these issues. So we need to ensure that we do not integrate agriculture globally. We keep our agriculture protected, quote unquote. America is keeping agriculture protected, Japan keeps agriculture protected, the European Union keeps agriculture protected. We also need to ensure that we need to produce within the country for our own people. Now, can that be done? We have we are moving from WTO to FTAs. There are now 300 FTAs we signed, and if you look at, we don't even realize what is going to happen. ASEAN was one agreement, but now there is agreement being discussed with not only European Union, but with America, with Australia, with Japan, with South Korea, you name it. Every country is trying to have an agreement with India, which is more devastating than the WTO has specified several years back. So I think if we were to follow these 4 or 5 principles and then build up our agriculture and food security on that need, I think we will be putting our country, ensuring food security for all times to come. And it cannot be done by the way the National Food Security Act is being brought in. National Food Security Act is only trying to legitimize the PDS system, which did not work for the last 40 years. The same system has to deliver in the name of the rights. But the same system which has failed to deliver, if they had delivered, India would be ranking 67th out of a hunger list of 88 countries or 84 countries. In every year, our ranking goes down in the global hunger index. So it clearly shows that that has not worked. But we now somehow believe that we can deliver the food security needs of the country through that system. I think that's not workable. What we need to really do is make agriculture profitable, make agriculture economically viable, and then also ensure that the country is able to build up self-reliance in fighting hunger. When I say self-reliance in fighting hunger, I just have to make a suggestion before you. There are 6 lakh plus villages in this country, out of which about 5 lakh villages produce food. Rest may be producing plantation crops and so on, but 5 lakh villages produce food. Please tell me, why should people be living in hunger in the villages where food is produced? Why can't we ensure that in that same village or in that same block, the food could be so judicially distributed that hunger is taken care of? This was a system prevalent in India. Those of you who have gone into studying the Gola system of Bihar, if you go to Patna, please look into the Gola here. Right into the heart of Patna city, there is a Gola, which was a huge grain bank right inside Patna city. But you can find out as to what exactly is happening, how the communities were actually sharing and caring, and food security. It wasn't a crisis in India several, 2 or 3 centuries back. It's because they had a system of food security banks. What we call as food grain banks. These were community-based food grain banks existing in India. At least 80-90 grain banks I know in this country, which are becoming a kind of oasis in the entire belt, where people take care of their entire food security need in a village or in a block or in a small cluster of villages. Now, if that can happen in a few villages, is a model of agriculture, a model of food security, which we need to spread across the country, which means local production, local procurement, local distribution. That's the principle we need to follow. And that will only ensure food security for the country for all times to come. And if you cannot depend upon Monsanto, Cargill, ADM or Walmart to provide food to our people, you have to ensure that the kind of resources that you have in the country, including the human resource, is something utilized in a manner that you are able to deliver or produce food within the country. But having said all this, why is it that it's not working? Professor Ramaswamy, if you have heard his name, is a man known popularly as the Cartman. I'm talking of the former director or the founding director of the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Professor Ramaswamy, once addressing a conference, told us an interesting story. Now, please don't blame me if you don't like the story. But since it came from Ramaswamy, I must intellectual property rights, I think he owns it. He said that in a jungle, there was sometimes in a jungle, suddenly the water came up after the monsoon or the rains, and it wasn't possible. The river was flooded, so it wasn't possible for the animals to cross in from this side to that side. So the king of the jungle, the tiger, was given complaints by the other animals that we need to have a bridge over this river. So they said okay in a meeting. So they said okay, let's go to the planning commission. Let's put a proposal to the planning commission. So a proposal was made to the planning commission. So a team went to meet the planning commission, and it was rejected. So when it was rejected, they came back, and the tiger was unhappy. Everybody was unhappy. So some other animals said, okay, we will try this time. So they put up a fresh proposal and went to the planning commission. The planning commission again turned it down. So they were having a meeting, and the tiger sitting there, and nobody finding what to do now. The river is not coming down its level of this thing. So there were two donkeys sitting at the back. So these donkeys got up and said, "Sir, everyone has failed. Give us a chance. Let's go and try." So the king or the tiger said, "Okay, you also go and try." So both these fellows, they are two donkeys. So they went to the planning commission. So they came back, and they got the approval. So when they got the approval, Professor Ramaswamy tells us that the animals asked the donkeys, or the king asked the donkeys, how was it possible? How did you do it? What remarkable thing you must have done before the planning commission. They said, no, actually when we went, one of us went in the group last time, so we realized that they weren't here because